There are many different stars in the realm of country music, and they tend to follow different paths, depending on their vocal range, overall talent, and what style of country music they feel they fit into. For one, Dwight Yoakam, he is known for not just his country twang when he sings, but his fashion sense via rhinestone suits and other visually eye-catching things. He's been in the business for a long time, and that means he has quite the history to share, and he's been willing to share it with others in recent times. The question for us today is about what the legacy of Dwight Yoakam is, in many respects, and what helped get him to the legendary status that he now covets. We'll break it down for you, but first, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. 6. The start of his career. As we start at the beginning of Dwight Yoakam's time in music, you might be surprised to learn that it started a long way away from where most associate country music legends to be born at, for he wasn't anywhere near Nashville. Instead, he was from California, and in the earliest days, he would go to bars and play for whoever was there with his version of Hillbilly Honky-Tonk. What's important here was that California didn't exactly have the biggest country fan base, especially in the 70s and 80s when Dwight Yoakam tried to make his name. Yet, there was something interesting about the way he sounded, and many people praised him for being something different than what Nashville was cranking out at the time. He was also different visually, refusing to be the urban cowboy that many were portraying in their own concerts and sets. Instead, he went a more authentic route, and that led him to being praised for doing all he could with his music and not being afraid to be raw when the song called for it. The irony goes even deeper, as he did go to Nashville at one point to try and make his name there, but when he arrived, he saw that the Nashville system had a particular way of getting stars, and it didn't fit what he had been doing via his live performances at bars. In other words, he wasn't the right guy for the job, and that led to him having to make a choice. He could either change who he was or prove everyone wrong by becoming a star anyway, just through different methods. We're pretty sure you know which path he chose. He took an outside-in approach and made it so that his performances and the word of mouth of viewers were the reason that he got success. 5. Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc. For Dwight Yoakam, what was to follow was a desire to do things one step at a time, and that made him a guy who was in the trenches of the music world versus always being in a studio trying to perfect his craft like Nashville often wanted. He went for a path that was raw and real, and audiences started to realize that this guy was the real deal when it came to his voice and style. Eventually, he released his first album, Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., and it was clear that this was something fresh and new, while also being something rooted in tradition. Dwight Yoakam took the California brand of country music and made it his own, which served as a different path for country music listeners. He even did a cover of Honky Tonk Man, which got a lot of praise and success. The single that the album was named after, though, was what took Dwight Yoakam straight to the top. Not only did the album achieve double platinum status, it was the first off 3 straight album releases that would go right to #1 on the charts. Yoakam himself was praised for his unique brand of country music, and many went on to say that he helped bring authenticity back to country music during a time when many thought country pop was the way to go. What arguably was key about this album's success, and Yoakam's success too, was that he really was living the country life. It wasn't a case where someone had a great voice and they just fit in the genre. He was the genre at its core. He wasn't studio-grown or handpicked for success. He was a guy that, just like in the country songs of old, picked himself up by the bootstraps, pressed forward, and got things done. He was country in many ways, and that's what helped get people to gravitate toward him. 4. Beck and Yoakam. One of the things that many ask about music is whether crossing genres is a good thing or not. As we all should know, it's just another part of making music, and there's nothing wrong with it. And in the decades that followed, Dwight Yoakam would do that many times, including in the 2010s when he worked with the musician known as Beck to create some interesting stylistic changes that helped both him evolve as an artist, while also helping country music evolve as a genre. By this point in his career, Dwight Yoakam had gotten into a rhythm of sorts, where he wanted nothing more than to have perfection in every note, and he strived for that. Yet with Beck at his side, he realized that this wasn't what got him into the music world in the first place. Instead, he got in through raw feelings and chords, and during one song's creation, A Heart Like Mine, Yoakam tried his hand at the electric guitar just to make something happen on a whim, and Beck encouraged him to keep it and use it. The impact was immediate, as Yoakam's new tracks started to get even more buzz from those that were beyond the standard country music audience. He was getting love from those in the rock genre and even from the indie circuit. Experimentation was the true heart of this partnership, and that was something that really spoke to Yoakam as a singer and as a person. He knew that while it might be good to go for chart-topping hits, there were plenty of artists who did that and then failed miserably, putting themselves into a spiral. By going this new route with this new voice helping him along the way, he got to keep the authenticity of his music and lyrics, while also bringing in something fresh, new, and arguably revolutionary. The music he was making was still country music at its core, but it was also more than that, and that helped people appreciate what he was doing even more. The big screen. It's not uncommon for certain stars of music to head to the big screen or the small screen to see what they could get there fame-wise. We've seen it with Keith Urban, Reba McEntire, George Strait, and more. For Dwight Yoakam, his love of performance actually came at a young age, when he did school plays and realized that he was really good at it. So, when he eventually made his name in music, he knew that he wanted to dabble in Hollywood whenever he could. Granted, he knew that music was his first passion, but he took roles when they came up, and it got him even more attention. One such film was the Billy Bob Thornton movie Sling Blade, which allowed the singer to show a deeper range than anyone had seen before. Since then, he was seen in all sorts of TV shows and movies, and every time he wasn't just some celebrity cameo. Instead, he often played characters who had a quirky side to them, while also being rather deep. This spoke to him as that's how he handled his music career. So he was arguably just playing extensions of himself every single time. And that speaks to Yoakam's style of creativity even more, for as an actor or a musician, he was a storyteller first and foremost. He wanted nothing more than to reach deep into the character or the song and bring the most out of it, no matter what it was or who they were. He noted in interviews that making music and acting have similar paths, including how the rhythm of it all goes. He's not wrong, because you can tell when someone is phoning it in with a music performance or with an acting role. Authenticity is a big deal to Dwight Yoakam, and that includes the legal side of the music world that continually tries to strike back at artists. 2. Fighting against Warner Music. The music industry may seem like a great place to end up from the outside, but once you're in it, you can find out really quickly that things aren't as fun as others make it out to be. For Dwight Yoakam and others, one of the biggest struggles they have with their record labels is getting the rights to their songs and the master copies they produce that go out to radio stations. You might recall that fellow country legend Taylor Swift had an intense battle to get her masters back after they were sold out of spite to someone else. In the case of Yoakam, he felt that Warner Music, which is one of the biggest record labels in the entire country, was holding his music hostage despite copyright law, stating that they had to give it back to him after a certain set of years. Instead, they were attempting to use loopholes to get around that, and thus not pay him what he was owed. It was a big deal when he sued them to try and get the rights back, as it spoke to a deeper problem within the music industry as a whole. Record labels, not unlike others in power these days, do all they can to consolidate power and make as much money as possible from it. Yoakam fought back hard against these established themes, and while we don't know the full results of the legal battle, we do know that a settlement was reached in the case, and that both sides apparently got what they wanted. That could mean a lot of different things, but it's clear that Yoakam was happy enough to stop the battle, because he wouldn't have held back if he thought he was getting a raw deal. That's just not who he is. 1. Dwight Yoakam's legacy. So now at the end of this video, what can we say is the true legacy of Dwight Yoakam? Well, it's an answer that's just as layered as the man himself. He's someone who hasn't been afraid to push boundaries, usurp the standards of the music world, and fight for being authentic over everything else. His story should serve as an inspiration. After all, he was told no by Nashville and clashed with them many times over the style of his music and performances. And yet he was able to make his fame by being true to who he was and making songs that he wanted to sing. Just as important, he never became a trope, but expanded his horizons and dabbled in other methods of performance art and making music. Dwight Yoakam is proof that you don't have to follow the trend, but instead can make something that's all your own and thrive on it, even more than the music or the suits or the silver screen appearances. What Dwight Yoakam gave to country music was a sense of independence, not just independence from the Nashville machine, but from the idea that success had to come a certain way, from a certain place, with a certain sound. He challenged the mold without ever losing his identity, never trying to be anything but himself. He didn't scream rebellion, but lived it, subtly, effectively, and over the course of decades. Yoakam's signature style, the tight jeans, the low-brimmed hat, the twang that could cut through any crowd, became not just a look or a sound, but a statement. It said, "This is me. Take it or leave it." And for millions of fans, that authenticity is exactly what made them stay. Whether he was crooning through heartbreak ballads or leaning into high-energy two-steps, you could tell it wasn't put on. It was real. It was lived in. It was Dwight. That's what separates legends from hitmakers. Plenty of people score a #1 song or ride the charts for a while, but not everyone defines an era or survives multiple ones. Dwight Yoakam did both. From his breakout in the 80s to his peak in the 90s, to his artistic reinventions in the 2000s and beyond, he proved that staying power doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from playing it honest. And let's not forget, Dwight didn't just sing country music, he elevated it. He took influences from honky-tonk, bluegrass, rockabilly, and even punk, and molded them into something that somehow still felt like pure country. He wasn't afraid to tip his hat to legends like Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, but he never tried to copy them either. Instead, he honored the past by building something new. That's not easy, but Yoakam made it look natural. Through the ups and downs, through the industry politics and legal battles, through evolving public tastes and changing formats, Yoakam kept showing up, boots on, hat low, voice ready. Whether he was filling theaters or recording in stripped-down studios, he stayed in it for the right reasons. Not for the fame, not for the flash, but for the music. And that may be his greatest legacy of all. Because long after the charts have moved on, and long after trends have shifted, Dwight Yoakam's music will still be playing in honky-tonks, road trips, backyard BBQs, and country-loving hearts all over the world. That's the beauty of doing things your own way. You don't just build hits, you build something timeless. And that's all from the life and times of Dwight Yoakam and how he grew into the superstar that he is and the impact that he's had on country music as a whole. What are your favorite memories of Dwight Yoakam, and what ones do you think he'll still make before putting his guitar away? What tracks and albums from him stick out to you to this day? Or what other country music legend would you like us to analyze in a future video? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.